What if a simple family photograph held a secret so chilling that even trained historians were left without words? Imagine this. The year is 1901. Families dressed in their finest clothes, fathers proud, mothers poised, and children stiffly still for the camera's long exposure. These portraits weren't just pictures. They were symbols of legacy, meant to outlive the people inside them. But what if, hidden deep in one single frame, there was something no one was ever supposed to see? Something so unsettling that even decades later, experts couldn't explain it. Look closer, beyond the carefully posed smiles, beyond the lace and the polished shoes. There, in the corner, is a shadow that doesn't belong, a hand where no one is sitting, a face that no one remembers. Now tell me, if you discovered a hidden figure in your own family photo, would you ignore it, or would you dare to investigate? Every mystery begins with a place and time. And for this one, that place was the Edwardian era, 1901. A time when family portraits weren't casual snapshots taken with phones, but rare, treasured events that could define how a family would be remembered for generations. Imagine it. Stiff collars, tightly laced dresses, children told not to move an inch as the camera's long exposure captured every detail. Photography was still new, almost sacred, and for many, it felt like holding a piece of immortality. The portrait at the heart of this story belonged to a wealthy merchant family in Boston. A mother seated gracefully, a father standing tall with the confidence of old money, and their 3 children arranged with perfect symmetry. To them, this was more than a picture. It was a statement of power, legacy, and permanence. But here's what makes portraits of that time so different from today. Unlike our endless selfies, these images were meant to endure. Every hand carefully placed, every face angled just right, every shadow captured forever. And that is exactly why what was discovered in this photograph is so deeply unsettling. Because when a photograph is meant to preserve perfection for eternity, what happens when imperfection forces its way in? What if the camera didn't just capture the living, but something or someone else entirely? So I'll ask you this. Do you believe old photographs can carry the energy or even the presence of those who never want to be forgotten? A picture-perfect family, or so it seemed. The father, a respected Boston businessman, though whispers of mounting debts followed him like shadows in alleyways. The mother, delicate, frail, and known for sudden fainting spells that often left gatherings in awkward silence. And the children, 2 young sons and a daughter, dressed in their finest, their tiny shoes polished to reflect the weight of expectation. At first glance, their portrait radiates prosperity, composure, and elegance. But historians later uncovered a different story, written not in the ink of the photograph, but in fragile letters hidden away in drawers, letters that reveal the truth of financial strain, sleepless nights, and a marriage cracking under the weight of appearances. You see, in 1901, social reputation was everything. Families like this one were willing to bend reality to keep their names untarnished. Behind their stillness and polite smiles lay a darker practice. Portraits weren't always what they seemed. Sometimes, chairs were positioned to conceal frailty. Sometimes, pale faces were painted over with false color. And sometimes, most disturbingly, the deceased were posed as though still alive, preserving an illusion of wholeness at any cost. This twist forces us to look closer. Was this portrait merely a proud legacy? Or was it, like so many others of its time, a mask designed to hide sickness, secrets, and shame? So, let me ask you, if your family's reputation was at stake, would you hide the truth behind a smiling photograph? At first glance, nothing seemed unusual, just a proud Boston family frozen in time, their finest clothes pressed, their posture stiff with dignity. But when the photograph was later enlarged by historians, a chilling detail came into focus. Resting gently on the daughter's small shoulder was a hand, an extra hand, a hand that didn't belong to anyone standing in the frame. The family's father had his hands on his knees, the mother's pale fingers clasped in her lap, and her 2 brothers stood rigid at her side. No one, absolutely no one, was behind her, yet the hand remained perfectly formed, with shadows and texture that matched the photograph's natural lighting. Some argued it was merely a photographic error, a flaw of early technology. But experts ruled that out. The depth, the shadow, and even the faint outline of the fingernails all aligned too perfectly with reality. This wasn't a smudge. This wasn't a blur. It was the presence. Now imagine this. You discover an old family portrait, passed down for generations. You study it carefully, only to realize that someone or something uninvited is touching your child, forever etched in ink. So I ask you, you think this was a fault of primitive photography, or was it something else, something paranormal, captured for eternity in one single haunting frame? Every mystery invites theories, but this one divided experts. For more than a century, the unexplained hand has sparked arguments between historians, photographers, and even paranormal investigators. The first is known as the ghost theory. Believers claim the hand belonged to a deceased family member, perhaps the father's late brother, reaching across time to make his presence known. The Edwardian era was full of spiritualist movements, seances, and a fascination with death. Could this portrait have accidentally captured a ghost? Then there's the hidden child theory. Some suggest a sixth family member was originally in the photograph, maybe a child born sickly or marked by deformity. Families of that era were obsessed with appearances. Could they have tried to hide the truth by cropping the child out, but miss one hand? And finally, the cover-up theory. Historians point out that photographs were sometimes altered, faces painted over, figures erased, to control reputation. But what if this family's secret was too messy to fully conceal and one small, ghostly detail slipped through the cracks? To make matters darker, we know that during this period, Victorian and Edwardian families sometimes took what were called mourning photographs. They posed with their deceased loved ones, sometimes even with children who had passed. Looking at the Holloway portrait, one has to wonder, was this simply a family memento or something far more disturbing? So here's the question. If you inherited such a photograph, if you notice a hand that doesn't belong, would you treasure it as a haunting memory of family past, or would you destroy it to erase the secret forever? A single image, frozen in time, haunting generations. The photograph of the Boston family didn't just stay hidden in a dusty attic. It passed from hand to hand, through auctions, archives, and even museum collections. And each time, stories surfaced. People reported a strange unease, an unsettling feeling that lingered long after they'd walked away from frame. Some swore they felt watched. Others described sudden chills running down their spine. Psychologists have a name for this phenomenon, the uncanny presence. It's when something in an image feels too real, too wrong, tapping into a primal instinct that something isn't right. But was this just human imagination? Or was the photograph itself holding on to something it was never meant to release? The story didn't end with historians. Years later, paranormal investigators visited the family's old Boston estate, long abandoned and rotting with time. What they claimed to see shocked even skeptics, a shadowy figure, tall and gaunt, standing near the staircase. Witnesses said the shape resembled the same outline as a mysterious hand in the photo. The implication was chilling. Had the photograph captured not just a moment, but a restless presence still bound to the house? And so the question remains, do you believe objects, like an old photograph, can carry the weight of secrets, curses, or even spirits? Or are we simply seeing what we want to see, projecting our fears onto a relic of the past? The 1901 family portrait is more than just ink on paper. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary images can hide extraordinary truths. What started as a simple legacy of a Boston family became a riddle of history, a photograph that continues to unsettle anyone who dares to look too closely. Maybe it was a mistake of early photography, maybe it was a hidden sibling, or maybe it was something far more chilling, something beyond this world. So, I'll leave you with this question. When you look closer at that frozen moment, what do you see? A printing error, a forgotten family member, or the touch of a ghostly presence that refused to be erased? If this story made you look twice, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I want to hear your theory. And if you're hungry for more hidden histories and unsolved secrets, make sure to like this video, share with a friend who loves mysteries, and subscribe. Because the next story might just change the way you look at every old photo tucked away in your own family album.